What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. And today we're going to be talking about 3 great moves that wide receivers can use at the top of the route. So we're going to be talking about 3 specific things that will get you guys some separation when you have to take an inside release on maybe an outside breaking route, how you guys can get separation against a more physical DB, and this what you guys can do overall to create some space, okay? So I hope this video helps you guys out, teaches you a few new things about route running and how you guys can create separation at the top of the route, not just off the line of scrimmage, okay? But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you want to know the specific things you need to be doing on the field to improve your overall route running and your press release game, check out that very first link in the description for our route running Bible. What you'll get access to, it's 2 programs for the price of 1. You'll get a 2-week long improve your route running in 10 days training schedule. It's a 2-week long schedule, all drills mapped out in video explanation form, and we give you a 48-minute long video on 20 releases you can use, when to use each one, and then drills to work on each one, okay? So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested in our route running Bible. Let's get started here. So first route we're going to be talking about here is this inside release corner route with a rocker step. So a rocker step is the first move that I want to talk about here, okay? And just for the record, he was in bounds. You can see it right here. So now, when you're coming off here and anytime that I got to take an inside release on a DB who's maybe outside shade off the press, or maybe I close the distance with him like Rashad Bateman does right here, and this DB drifts to the outside, if I take that inside release, I got to make sure that I have a plan, right? I talk about it all the time. You want to make sure that you trust yourself at the top of the route. You don't want to just think, oh, okay, I got to run a corner, especially when you're on the numbers too. Let's not even talk about with the spacing on the field. But even if you're from the slot outside, regardless, you got to make sure that we trust ourselves at the top of the route. Outside breaking route doesn't mean anything. You don't always have to take an outside break, because if this guy's outside shade and you try to run and you try to force it outside, he's going to get right into this hip and force you to the sideline. So trust yourself with the route. Trust yourself at the top of the route, right? So Bateman, when he comes off here, he does a great job closing the space, seeing that this DB's jumping to the outside and takes the inside release on this. Right now, again, if this is more of if you're on the numbers, it's probably designed to be an inside release, right? So it's probably designed like, hey, you got to take an inside release on this so you have spacing to the sideline. Because if you were to even just run this thing, and let's say he was way inside shade and you break it off on a corner, you're not going to have a ton of room. This quarterback's going to have to throw this thing with great timing and drop a dime over the shoulder. So there's probably a designed inside release, right? But let's get to the top of the route because that's what this video is about, right? So a rocker step, if you guys do not know, is, if you're not familiar with this page, is a double step, right? So you want to step to the side that you are going first, right? So if I got to run a corner route, I'm going to step outside first, back inside, and then go. It's like a way of running a corner or a post corner without actually taking 3 steps, right? You're selling the post. You got to make sure that you're selling with that upper half, because you're going to use this rocker step in 2 situations, either when you restack the defender like so, or when you got a defender who's in off coverage and you got to make a move to slip back in front of him, right? So Bateman, this rocker step, you see how he's able to go here. 1, that's the first step of the rocker, and you see how his hips and his shoulders are committed. Then 2, he throws back to the inside. Hips and his shoulders are committed again. The thing about this rocker step is your upper half has to be extremely loose, because this DB is taught in man coverage. What are you supposed to watch? Supposed to watch that hip. He's going to identify that number. That is where he's looking. So if you don't sell with this, he's not going to go. Now, a lot of guys will try to sell with this, but they sell above the waist. They'll lean into it with their head and their shoulders. That doesn't do anything. You got to make sure that you are stepping. Those steps are explosive. You're stepping wide. You're actually throwing to the inside of your hips and your shoulders and your eyes. Everything goes to the inside, because when you could get to this spot, that makes that DB believe post. He doesn't believe post if you're just giving a little bit of a head lean, right? He doesn't believe post if you're just stepping there, but your hips and your shoulders stay square. You got to make sure that we have all 3. I got to throw my upper half, I got to step there, and I got to bring my eyes there. And that, you see, that's what's going to get that DB to sit to the inside. Now, anytime that I make this rocker step, again, it's a little bit slower than a single cut, but it's really not that much slower. But you got to make sure that we don't lose any explosion. A lot of guys, what they'll try to do is they'll make this rocker step and they'll step way outside of their frame. They'll drag their feet behind them. And what that does is that kills all the explosion at the top of the route. You want to be sudden with your feet, but you don't want there to be a drag. You want to be able to just open up your hip. You want to be able to go 1, 2, open up the hip and be able to get onto this route and drive off of that inside leg, because when you can drive and open up that hip, that helps you accelerate. The goal is to accelerate and win the race to the ball. At the end of the day, it's all that matters. Did you win the race to the ball? No, you didn't make a good route. You didn't run a good route. Yes, you ran a good route. You got open. You got separation. You were able to win. At the end of the day, it comes down to winning the route. And if you don't have that acceleration off of a rocker step because you reach too far, you're striking the ground on your heels, you're not going to be able to get out of this thing efficiently and create separation. So rocker step is the number 1 great move that you guys can use at the top of the route to create space. Perfect example here from Rashad Bateman on an inside breaking route an outside breaking route with an inside release. Okay, so now we're going to be taking a look at this route here from Stefon Diggs. The second move I want to talk about is this throw by technique. Okay, so let's watch thing full speed. So he comes off here, top of the route like a hitch route, throws him by, able to get back to this ball and make this play downfield. So let's talk about this, right? So A throw-by technique is something that you guys want to do anytime you want to either slip underneath the DB or stop, right? So usually it has to do with like kind of what we were talking about before, this throw by. Like, it's if you take an outside release and this DB turns and runs with you, and you maybe have like an inside breaking route, like a slant, an under route, a 5-yard in, or you have like a little stop route, or you took an inside release, this DB ran with you, and you have to run an out route to slip back underneath them, or like a comeback, or whatever it is. So that's usually when you use this throw by. Now, again, I really only like this kind of thing in man coverage, but you have to be careful because a lot of times guys will get called for a flag with this if they extend and push. So you want to make sure that you're using the momentum of the DB, and that comes from selling vertical, right? So let's talk about this. So Diggs, he does a great job of closing the distance, right, off the line of scrimmage, close the distance, try to get this DB flat-footed, and then when we burst up to the outside, this is what sets up the throw by. We have to be fast, right? You see how Diggs, his eyes are to the outside, hips and his shoulders are to the outside. He's in full stride. Those are the things that makes that DB turn his hips, and that's what sets up the throw by move, right? A lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll set this up too early. They'll be chopping their steps, they'll be leaning back with their chest, they'll be slowing way down, and they put their hand on this guy before they make the break. It's got to be at the last second. When you snap it off like so, see how Diggs, last second, when he drops, when he snaps on that inside foot, bam, that's when he's swatting those hands by. And you see, he's attacking those points of control. The points of control on the throw by are either the elbow, or you have the back of the shoulder or the back of the hip. Those are the three spots that you want to either attack, because if you're trying to swat his hands, you start leaning back, you're trying to be too particular about where you strike him, you're not going to get any separation. So it's got to be a hard, like almost club, and you use his momentum to swat by. Because again, if you could get him to run fade, if you get him to commit to the fade because of your eyes, your hips and your shoulders, your stride, and he doesn't have hands on you and you make that sudden break on a dime, his hands are like his outlet. His hands are his help. If he doesn't get hands, it's going to be very tough to make this play on the route, and you see how far he's able to shoot by. And again, this is a ton of separation on a 5-yard hitch against press. I'll take that all day long, especially if it's like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5, and we just have to get a first down and pretty much fall forward. That's a great job there by Diggs, running that perfect route. So again, second best move that you guys can use at the top, not even second best like that, but just one of the best moves that you guys can use is a throw by technique. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job getting him to commit to the fade, swatting those hands off, making that sudden break, and coming back to that ball. All right, so now last clip I want to talk about here is a tempo change, okay? So this tempo change is something that you got to use sparingly, right? Like, I don't like the tempo change in zone. Like, let's say let's say, for example, like this guy's like a safety, right? Like, let's say there's a real game scenario where we have a receiver out of the slot, and let's say this is like a too high safety look to where maybe, I know he's at 5 yards, but just bear with me here, but let's say he's at like 10 to 12 yards, maybe 8 to 10 yards, and he's a little bit further off. I don't like the tempo change in that, because when it's zone coverage, think about it from a quarterback perspective, he just needs you to a spot. He doesn't need all the fancy stuff. When it's man coverage, that's a different story, right? And I'm not saying you need to do all this fancy crap. I'm saying you need to just be able to create space, and you got to change the tempo on the DB to get him guessing. But against zone, just worry about getting there. Do not change up tempo when it's a zone coverage concept. If it's cover 4, cover 3, whatever it is, we need you to get to the spot, right? It's a different scenario if you got maybe a linebacker in front of you, you got to make a quick move, then you got to get up, fine. But don't change tempo. Just make sure you're getting to the spot the quarterback needs you to get to fast. Zone coverage is all about sitting in the open spots. Man coverage is about using these types of moves to be able to create space, right? So now, why do we go with the tempo change? So now, let's say it is off man coverage, right? Let's say I got this man coverage look. I know I'm a good route runner from a quarterback perspective. I'm going to go to the guy who's going to get open against man coverage. This tempo change makes that DB match your tempo and helps him slow down. So when you burst up, when you go from 0 to 100, that forces a reaction out of him, right? So when I come off here, this DB is not going to backpedal faster than what we run, right? He's not going to turn and run faster than what we run, because he doesn't want to bail way out of there, because you could just sit it down and catch the ball. So he's going to be trying to match my speed. That's what DBs do. That's why it's so difficult to play the defensive back position. So you see, when we come off here and we change up tempo on this, that slows him down. Now, when I burst up to the outside fast, what do you think that does to that DB? That forces a reaction out of him. So one of the third best moves, or one of the 3 best moves that you can use, is a tempo change at the top of the route. But make sure we know when to use it. You change tempo to slow the DB down. In a game, you change tempo when you feel like he's starting to get a feel for how fast you're rolling. Maybe you're not getting as much separation when you're running full speed. Maybe he's starting to understand the routes. Maybe he's starting to kind of get, okay, this guy only runs 3 to 4 routes. You got to be able to mix it up. This tempo change is something that I would only use if you're more of an advanced route runner, but it's one of the best ways to create space and get that DB to overcommit to a move so I could create a ton of separation. Great route overall right here. Let's watch the thing again, full speed. Great tempo change. Great job attacking the outside shoulder on an inside breaking route, and great overall route running. running right there. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I always appreciate the feedback, and it's always great hearing from you guys. Helps me come up with new ideas for the channel, so I always appreciate it. And again, fellas, Route Running Bible, 2-week-long wide receiver on-field training schedule, everything wide receivers need to do to improve their game, route running-wise and press release-wise. And fellas, if you're in the San Diego area and you want to come out to a camp that we are having this Sunday, October 24th, check out that second link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.